Z of Zombies Future Z Part 7 Clocktime. It will be very difficult, replied Sean. Yes, that has a degree of probability that tends to zero in the present circumstances, intervened Mental, but fortunately we have many options. The vigilance together with Mental must resolve the absence of the disk, so that it can be found long afterwards, as would occur originally. But it turned out that something had changed, some small detail, a little delay or rush, or a little more alcohol that Schrödinger had drunk, would have altered to any degree its original behavior, among other thousands of patterns of simulation of possible events that Mental proposed, contrasting geometric progressions in milliseconds. Dr. Miss Himoto, said Mental, addressing Sean and smiling in a very reassuring way, considering the proofs of Rafaela and Helen, in principle, we could check the activities of Dr. Schrödinger between the moment we left him at the airport and the moment the passengers of the personnel transport helicopter departed. Sean, Helen, and Rafaela listened attentively to the words of Mental. The contingency plan made sense, but it also involved risks. If someone else was behind the disk, duplicating it could alert them and jeopardize the mission. Rafaela, with her agile mind and sharp intuition, asked, "How can we be sure? What if there are subtle differences that we can't detect?" Mental processed the question. It is true that we cannot guarantee absolute identity. But I downloaded exhaustive data from the original disk, including its structure, content, and encryption patterns. If we create an exact replica, it should be indistinguishable. Helen, with her experience in boundary situations, added, "We need a safe place to do the duplication. Something away from indiscreet gaze and possible threats." And he suggested, "What if we use the control tower? It's isolated, and we could set up a security perimeter." Mental cried out. "Good choice. The control tower gives us a panoramic view of the area. In addition, I can scan any anomalies in real time." All four headed toward the control tower, their steps resonating on the dusty ground. The stairs crumbled under their weight, and the windows were not so opaque for them to see from the inside. From above, they could see the ruined airport spreading like a maze of broken memories. In the control room, Mental quickly found a hard drive of the same model as the original, connected its own system of auxiliary batteries to a terminal and the lights blinked. Rafaela, with her ability for electronics, monitored every process. Sean and Helen were on alert, their weapons ready. The duplicate began to form on the screen. Every bit, every piece of information, was meticulously replicated. Mental supervised the process, his mind calculating probability and adjusting parameters. Finally, the replica was complete. It was an exact copy of the original disk. Mental carefully pulled it out and put it in a protective box. "Ready," he announced. "Now we must make sure it stays in its original place of encounter and remains hidden and protected." Sean looked at his companions. "Our next step is to investigate Schrödinger's activities. Find out what happened next with the original disk here and..." Sean looked at the horizon. "The key is in this place. We must be precise and finish restoring the timeline." Helen, caressing Rafaela who smiled, said to everyone, "We could position ourselves inside the hangar and at strategic points of the airport at the moment Schrödinger said goodbye to us, but only as observers. Then as soon as we recognize the route of the original disk, we could make an appropriate decision." "Excellent," said Sean. "Mental, for priority reasons, we need you to leave the disk at the exact location where it will be found, then we will all go through these ruins together. But better take the disk now, and we'll meet at the foot of the tower when you get back." Mental assented in silence and with a very human gesture, and went walking with a almost adolescent rhythm. Mental performed this kind of behavior in the function of evening the positive aspects in its interaction with humans. He entered the hangar again, headed directly to the larger helicopter, and at the feet of Schrödinger's remains, took the small thermal bag, put in the disk, took some of the oxidized plates from the floor and put the bag underneath. The plate would prevent the disk from being removed prematurely and would gradually deteriorate until the time of its original finding. And he went back to the foot of the control tower. Mental found Sean, Helen, and Rafaela deliberating on the next possible steps to follow. Sean turned to Mental, "Have you left everything as it was in its original form?" Mental assented, although he knew that there were always infinitesimal possibilities of error. The four visitants traveled through the ruins of the airport, familiarizing themselves with the distribution of spaces, while Mental compared the current moment with the one of a year ago and explained with expertise the differences and the dynamics of human flow that they would find when they arrived at the same place at the time of chaos, and as they should not interfere in the development of past events, they should position themselves at strategic points as observers and without intervening, whatever the situation. They prepared to solve the riddle of the fate of the original hard drive at the airport. Helen and Rafaela would be located between the passenger check-in areas and the VIP, respectively, and Sean in the bar. Mental, more agile and faster than humans, would discreetly follow Schrödinger from the moment he said goodbye with a gesture. Time was stretching, and fate was hanging in a delicate balance. Mental prepared the coordinates of the temporary position device, and the grey sky erupted in a bright blue sky of mid-morning Sunday. While Sean, Helen, and Rafaela reacted humanly to the new intensity of light and heat, the hair of the frondosa melena of Mental was erected to capture more light, since they functioned as filaments in the mode of solar panels. All four set off toward the previously designated points. There were still minutes before Schrödinger arrived. Everything looked new and quite clean, smelled of disinfectants and ultra-processed foods and human sweat and perfumes. After Mental, Helen was the first to position, and Rafaela was heading to her designated observation point as Sean arrived at the bar and took a seat where the largest arc of vision was presented. A very pretty young woman approached him, and immediately asking him what he wanted to drink, Sean perceived the simulated interest of the girl and thanked him by saying that he would wait for his friend to arrive and then accept a drink. The girl withdrew, somewhat strange of how foreigners express themselves. Later with Mental they would decide on the linguistic variants. Mental at the main entrance of the airport, perceiving a constant increase in the nervousness of the people, saw the taxi that brought Schrödinger and the visitors who did not see him to him, although for a fraction of a second the eyes of Mental and Mental crossed, and there was a super exchange of information expressed in flashes so fast that they went beyond the human capture and security cameras that could take them for twins. Schrödinger hurriedly entered the airport building, and Mental followed him by chance. Schrödinger was still carrying a backpack and the thermal bag carrying the original disc. Schrödinger headed to the passenger check-in area. Mental and Helen were deliberately ignored, but neither of the two stopped paying attention to Schrödinger, and especially to the pocket with the hard drive.